Hey friends, Iggy here. Most investors in Singapore go with that classic 60-40 mix and call it a day, but Retire by 50 did something very different. He built 7 separate investment buckets to hit financial independence by 50. So the big question is this: is that kind of complex setup actually practical for retirement? Or is it just financial engineering that sounds clever on paper? Let's walk through this together, step by step, and see what's smart, what's risky, and what I'd personally keep or tweak. Quick roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the multi-portfolio strategy and why someone might build 7 buckets instead of 1. Then we'll go portfolio by portfolio. The diversified core, the growth slice, dividends, the health sinking fund, SRS as a tax play, fixed deposits, and that Cambodia investment property. After that, we'll talk about the risk assessment, what could go wrong, and whether you should copy this approach. Finally, I'll share my honest take and what I recommend for most Singapore investors. If you're new here, I've spent years breaking down investing in Singapore so you don't have to stress. Let's dig in. So, first up, the multi-portfolio strategy. Genius or too complex? Retire by 50 doesn't use one big pot. He uses 7, each with a job and timeline. Imagine a dashboard with 7 dials. One dial is long-term global equities for growth. Another is a single stock growth punt. Then there's a yield dial, a healthcare dial, a tax-optimized SRS dial, a fixed deposit dial, and a property dial. Imagine a table for a second. It shows that the diversified bucket is the core, property is big, and the growth slice is meaningful. The key insight is this: while the core is sensible, about 40% sits in very high-risk assets. That's bold. It can work. It can also hurt. So the strategy is thoughtful, matching assets to future expenses, but complexity introduces new failure points. Do you want to juggle 7 dials for 20 years? That's the question I always ask myself. That brings us to the portfolio by portfolio analysis: the good, the bad, and the concerning. Let's start with the diversified portfolio, the solid foundation. The core is IWDA, the iShares MSCI World ETF. This is the bread and butter of set and forget investing. Global spread, low cost, broad exposure. That's great. There's also a large cash position in this bucket. Honestly, that's a bit high if the goal is long-term growth, but it does give flexibility to rebalance or buy dips. So here's how I look at it. If this is the retirement engine, IWDA makes sense as the main driver. Would I trim the cash over time? Probably, yes, unless there's a clear plan for deploying it. What matters for us is simplicity, low cost, and staying invested. Now the growth portfolio, the dangerous gamble. This one is 100% Palantir. I know it's exciting. It's also very risky. Imagine a small table in your head. Revenue growth looks great, but the PE ratio sits at nosebleed levels. That means the market is pricing in a lot of future success. And if that success doesn't show up, the share price can fall fast. A single stock representing an entire growth bucket breaks the basic rule of risk control. Personally, I like to keep single name exposure small. Even if I love the story, I try not to let it become a portfolio driver. Does this kind of bet have a place? Yes. Should it be limited? For most people, definitely. Next, the dividend portfolio, the steady performer. Netlink Trust, a fiber network monopoly in Singapore. That's a strong defensive story. It pays out regularly and suits an income bucket. The flip side, if the payout ratio is very high, the yield may not be as safe as it looks. Also, yield vehicles feel the impact of rate cycles and regulation. So I like the idea, and I actually hold Netlink too, but I keep an eye on sustainability. The red flag to watch is where the distributions are covered by cash flows and not just accounting. Now the health sinking fund, the purpose-built approach. This is smart. Parking the S&P 500 ETF to fund future healthcare costs creates clarity. It's a mental firewall. Instead of tapping retirement income for medical needs, this bucket is dedicated to healthcare. That reduces stress when the bills come, and the S&P 500, over long horizons, tends to do its job. I love the intent here. Clear purpose, solid index, easy to manage. Would I add a small buffer in cash within this bucket for near-term bills? Yes, that helps avoid selling in a drawdown. Next up, the SRS portfolio, tax optimization gold. This one is for the Singapore crowd. SRS gives dollar for dollar tax relief up to the cap. After 62, only half the withdrawals are taxable. Picture a simple table. Annual income, SRS contribution, tax saved. For a higher earner, the savings are not small. Over decades, that snowballs. And if it's invested sensibly through something like EndoWoo's, you get both market returns and tax edge. The key is to remember the trade-off. Liquidity is limited until 62, so only allocate what you truly won't need before then. If used well, SRS is one of the best tax levers we have here. Then we have the fixed deposit, the anchor. USD fixed deposits give a modest rate and some stability, but there's SGD USD currency risk. The value in SGD terms can swing. Also, FD rates move with the global rate cycle. This is a low-risk slot that mainly keeps capital safe. Think of it as the sleep well money. If the goal is stability, great. If the goal is growth, this is not the driver. One small tip: ladder the maturities to avoid reinvestment risk shocks. Finally, investment property, the wild card. This is a Cambodia Soho. Property can be wonderful, but frontier markets add layers of risk, from developer risk and legal frameworks to rental demand and exit liquidity. This is the least liquid piece of the puzzle with the most unknowns. If it does well, it can turbocharge net worth, but if it goes sideways, capital gets stuck. I invest in property and I love real assets, but I size these bets carefully and do deep due diligence on the jurisdiction, tenancy laws, and exit routes. Ask, how will I get my money out and when? Let's zoom out now to the risk assessment. What could go wrong? Imagine a risk and liquidity matrix. The growth bucket has single stock risk. The property has frontier and illiquidity risk. The SRS bucket locks capital till 62. Even the dividend bucket has interest rate and regulatory risk. And the diversified bucket has the usual market and currency risk. The system, while elegant, has a lot of moving parts. The key trade-offs are concentration, liquidity mismatches, and FX exposure. If life throws a curveball, which buckets can you touch without taking a big loss? That's the practical test I use. By the way, if you want all the reference tables, checklists, and the written version, everything's on Substack. The link's just below. It's the exact post this video is based on, so you can follow along line by line. Should you copy this strategy? Here's the balanced answer. If you're advanced, the tax optimization and purpose-built buckets are great. The IWDA core is rock solid. For most investors, the complexity and the high-risk slices are the issue. Managing 7 buckets takes effort, and the concentrated bets can derail plans. A simpler alternative that often works better: a 3-bucket approach. Core diversified, around 70%, tax advantaged, around 20%, and conservative cash or bonds, around 10%. Fewer moving parts, easier to rebalance, and less chance of a single blow-up sinking the ship. Now, my honest take: I love the bucketing idea, the SRS discipline, and the core IWDA. That's all very good. I would dial down the single stock bet, and I'd also treat frontier property as a special situation, not a pillar of retirement. In my experience, the thing that matters most is staying in the game. If I could give you one thing to remember, it's this: don't let a speculative win or lose position decide your retirement. Let good habits and diversified compounding do the heavy lifting. So, if you're planning your next move, here's what I'd keep in mind. Keep a strong core, use tax levers like SRS wisely, match buckets to real-life needs, limit concentrated bets, and keep liquidity for the rainy days that always show up at the worst time. What are you looking at this month? Are you rebalancing, adding to core, or building your SRS plan? Let me know in the comments. I read every one. If you found this useful and want early access to deep dive posts, portfolio checklists, and members-only Q&A, consider joining the premium membership on Substack. It's where the community hangs out, shares notes, and gets first look at my research. And if you want a natural next step, watch my video on building a simple 3-bucket retirement portfolio for Singapore: core, tax advantaged, and income. It'll give you a clean template you can adapt today. I'll see you there.